What is going on, guys and girls? Level Up here at OnPointGaming's OnPointTactical, and today we are looking at the AK-5C in Battlefield 4. Now, last time I looked at this gun, we didn't have any stats on Synthic, but now we do, so I can actually give an accurate review with actual stats. So if we go to Synthic.com, we'll see that the maximum damage of the AK-5C is 25 and the minimum is 15.4. Standard carbine damage model with the damage drop off starting at 8 meters and ending at 50 meters. Its fire rate is 700 rounds a minute and its muzzle velocity is 630 meters per second, and you take a 300 meter per second penalty when you're using a suppressor. The bullet drop ratio is 15 meters per second squared, and the magazine size is a 31, and it uses the 5.56 by 45 millimeter NATO carbine round. The reload times are 2.35 seconds on a long reload and 1.85 seconds on a short reload, matching it only a tiny bit slower than the M16A3 from Battlefield 3. The recoil pattern is very, very low at 0.32 up and 0.2 on either side, with a recoil decrease per second of 18 and a first shot recoil multiplier of 1.65, and its ADS spread is 0.3, meaning that this gun is both insanely accurate and really darn steady. I think that if you are sort of new to recoil management in Battlefield, then the AK-5C is going to be just about your best friend, because this carbine is so easy to use that it can match some of the 800 round a minute guns just because of how accurate you can be as a shooter. It doesn't matter how accurate a gun is if you cannot manage the recoil and actually land your shots on target, because then your accuracy technically would be worse even if you have a really darn accurate gun. This carbine can be used in just about any situation considerably effectively. I've played Obliteration and Rush, Conquest Large, TDM, Domination. I've played every different game mode with the AK-5, and I don't think that any of the carbines matches it with versatility. It still does sort of come up short versus weapons like the FAMAS and AEK. In close quarters, even the ACWR sometimes will beat me out. But I think that as long as you shoot first and land all of your shots in the chest, you should be able to beat out some of these guns in close quarters, especially if you are facing a lesser skilled player. And I have found that while, yes, a slight disadvantage, the rate of fire with the AK-5C isn't near as big of a deal as it is with some weapons, because its accuracy and low recoil sort of makes up for it. Now, you could take it to the extreme and run a stubby grip and muzzle brake and have a gun with basically no recoil to speak of whatsoever. That could work, but I found it to be a lot more competitive to run something like an angled grip or an ergo grip along with the laser sight. You could run stubby grip and laser sight, but you don't really benefit from it all that much because it is only a 15% accuracy addition to a gun that already has a 0.3 spread, so you don't really need too awful much improvement. However, I do like a pinpoint accurate weapon, so I was running the stubby grip for the majority of the gameplay. This is just sort of a side note. I am slightly irritated that DICE hasn't got the logo system figured out yet, because that was sort of like free marketing in my gameplay, but that has no relevance to the weapon whatsoever. I mentioned this gun's versatility, and you can run just about any optic that you want to on the AK-5. So if you're trying to get used to using a new sight, put it on the AK-5C and run with it for a while. I've been trying to get used to using the combat sights, meaning the M145 and the ACOG and whatnot, because if you're playing Conquest Large, every once in a while you need that bonus of having an extra bit of magnification. So I've been trying to get used to the combat sights, and I found that just about the most effective method of doing that was using the M16A3 in the AK-5 for learning the different sights. And right there you'll see me taking advantage of it. I was playing Recon for most of the gameplay too. I don't think that the Recon class is quite as appreciated as it should be right now, because with the motion sensor grenades and the C4, you can sort of be a one-man army with a good carbine or a good, DMR, I guess, except that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because a good DMR would be sort of an oxymoron. You can be just as much of a soldier as you want to be playing Recon now with the addition of the carbines. And once again, the AK-5 sort of comes out on top for just the sheer usability of the darn thing. You can use it pretty effectively in just about any engagement distance, and I never really found it to be a hindrance with the low recoil to run a higher magnification optic, because then even in close quarters, because of that small recoil, I could either hip fire or just simply aim in. Because of the low recoil, it didn't really feel to be all that obtrusive or like I was at a huge disadvantage because of that. So at the end of the day, the AK-5C is one of those guns that I think a lot of people are going to wind up using it once they've sort of played some of the different guns, or if they're new and they're working on their recoil management, or they just simply aren't that good at recoil management. They're going to find that the AK-5C and weapons similar to it are going to be really easy to control, and therefore will probably wind up using them mostly full time. If you are an experienced player, you probably aren't going to have that much fun with the AK-5, because it's only okay from a lot of standpoints. It is a decent carbine for just about any engagement distance, but it doesn't excel in any sort of area, because even at long range, where its low recoil is going to be primarily advantageous, you have the ADS spread of 0.3, which is less than an assault rifle. So if you're up against an equally skilled player using an assault rifle, you are in fact going to be at a disadvantage with the AK-5 versus that particular weapon. The M416 immediately comes to mind because of it also has an ease of use unmatched by a lot of weapons, and should be pretty darn easy for just about anyone to use. I'm LevelUp here at OnPointGaming's OnPointTactical, and I highly recommend that you check out the AK-5C Carbine in Battlefield 4, and don't give up on it right away. Give it a chance, because you're not going to regret it. I hope to see you guys on the battlefield.